Mm. Alright, so first off, a big idiot like me, didn't do any research in the name of the show, like calling it In Review. I was like, oh, that sounds good. There's a reason. That's because every fucking show on the internet is called that. So this week, we're going with the name Tuesday Show. So welcome to Tuesday Show, for the week of July 6th through 12th. Get right into it, I guess. Movies. I got movies and TV this week. Movies. The Neon Demon. Again, I did end up seeing it again last week. I won't go too much into it since I talked a lot about it on the last one. Just gotta say, still love it. Still listening to the soundtrack practically every day. The only thing I've gone down to the point where I've really analyzed this movie. Except there's one scene I can't figure out. I won't talk about it because it is weird, graphic, and kind of a spoiler. But I don't know if you've seen the movie, you might know what I'm talking about. The next movie I saw was Rent. 2005 musical. Rosario Dawson, other people. I don't really recognize anyone else but her. Now, I had a lot going into this movie, both really positive opinions and really negative ones. So both sides of the spectrum from both people I trust. So I really didn't know what to expect. And I still don't really know how I feel about it. Because there's some stuff I really like early on the choreography is really nice, but then it kind of stops happening about halfway through the movie. They stopped doing real fancy big dance scenes and just kind of meld away. I like some of the visuals, but they also kind of toned down by the later half of the movie. It's I guess I like the first half more, not just for the story, because everything's happier in the beginning, but it just happens that seems like all the visually pleasing, some of the better songs, and choreography, like I said, is all in the first half of the movie. And by the time you get to the second half, where it's sad and tragic, it's kind of too much in a way. I don't know, I'm still kind of mixed about it overall. And the last movie I saw this week was Escape from New York. One of my all-time favorite movies. It's quotable beyond belief. It looks gorgeous. Snake Plissken is the baddest ass you will ever see. He's quotable. Like I said that. Pretty much every line of his is quotable. Donald Pleasance is great as a president. I really like his performance. Harry Dean Stanton and Adrienne Barbeau are a convincing couple. Maggie and the Brain really connect, even though there's why they're together is not exactly the nicest circumstance. They do connect into this really good romance. You can tell there's a lot of feelings for each other. The Duke is a great villain. Isaac Hayes plays him perfectly. He's cool. He's suave. He's funny. He's the Duke KO #1. Just the atmosphere and the world in this movie. For those who don't know, it's an 80s movie that the entirety of America's prison has become Manhattan Island, so they just closed off Manhattan Island and shoved every prison inmate in the country into there. And they just kind of watch the walls, but everything inside is run by the prisoners, and it's just kind of this messed up, tribal is not the right word, but just return to the wild sort of world. Really brutal, unforgiving. There's cannibals that live in the sewers. There's It was a Broadway show full of drag queens. Uh, that's where you get Ernie Ernest Borgnine. Ernest Borgnine plays Cabby, who's this cab driver who he says he's been driving the same cab for the last 30 years. Makes you. It's like wondering whether. His story is interesting, but it's just like, has he been a cab driver this whole time? Did they shut off the island and just leave him there? It almost feels that way. But he's great. Lee Van Cleef is the police chief who's in charge of Pliskin. They have a good rapport. Pliskin's normally fighting him, being an ass, trying to outsmart him, but Lee Van Cleef's character has got like everything covered. This time watching, I also noticed Tom Atkins, which I haven't in previous watchings, but maybe I just didn't know who Tom Atkins was. Awesome soundtrack. It's my favorite soundtrack. It's my favorite soundtrack of Carpenter's. It's my favorite movie of Carpenter's. It's the first movie I've seen by Carpenter, which this movie is like weird in the sense that my dad has a lot of action movies in his collection. They're mostly like the mainstream big blockbuster action movies, lots of Schwarzenegger, some Stallone. But he had the two Escape movies, Escape from New York and Escape from LA, which really stand out and are really different from any other action movie of the time. Maybe not so much Escape from LA, but definitely Escape from New York. It's like really different compared to most of the other movies in my dad's collection, but he still loved it, and I just found it weird. But that's also how I got attached to the movie, and it's awesome. Kurt Russell's my favorite actor because of this movie. John Carpenter's my favorite director because of this movie. Whew. Getting passionate in here. I haven't even talked about the TV shows yet. Oh man. So, TV shows. Graphic or whatever. Okay, so there are two shows, technically three shows. I'll get into it. The one show I watched this week. Fuck, I didn't say what this is for. So one show that I watched, spent a lot of time watched the entire season, which was season 3 of Ultimate Spider-Man, also known as Ultimate Spider-Man Web Warriors. I had not seen the first 2 seasons. It was just on Netflix, and I heard some good recommendation from a friend. Figured, why not check it out? This show is really, I argue to say good. I love what it's trying to do. So basically, this show is connected to all the other Marvel shows going on right now, the other Marvel cartoons, which I also don't watch, but like Avengers, Agents of Smash, I think Guardians, although I don't know if that show had started when this one came out, because the character designs are different when the Guardians appeared in an episode. But that said, the show is almost like the Marvel Universe featuring Spider-Man, because he's one character in, like, he has 2 teams he develops over this season. His original team includes like Nova, White Tiger, Iron Fist, Power Man, Luke Cage. And then like his new team has Agent Venom, the Iron Spider, Squirrel Girl, Cloak and Dagger, the Rhino. For whatever weird reason, the Rhino becomes a good guy in this show. Maybe he does in the comics. I'm not completely caught up on things. But that's kind of to the point of the show where it seems, which I really appreciate it for and really love what it's doing, which is tying it into modern comics. So kids watching this show can go pick up a comic book off the shelf, like any issue, and at least try and understand what's going on. I really, really like that, because they're doing the newer stories, like Agent Venom, Squirrel Girl, who's only recently gotten pretty popular, Nova, other characters all in this show. So it's like new storylines. They did a Spider-Verse storyline. So bringing all these new comic characters and these new stories into it really helps like prepare prepare the audience for comics, and like being as it's a show for kids, it really helps them. Like I said, if they're just in a store, they see a Spider-Man comic on the shelf, they can pick it up and read it, even though it's issue 36, and still get a better understanding of it than if they hadn't watched the show, which I think is awesome that it's doing that, especially because, like, growing up for me, it was a similar sort of thing. Like, I have a bunch of random Spider-Mans, random X-Men's, and yeah, sometimes I'd understand what's going on, but normally it'd be like part 2 of 6, or just even like a random issue, but I don't none of the characters. So this show is like helping kids get introduced to the universe in a easy, quick way, like shoving 75 years of comic history, especially the last 10, all into this show, getting them ready to read the comics and get into them. I think that's really cool, the show, and I don't know if that's the point of the show, but that's what I kind of took from it. Other thing I really liked is Spider-Man's arc throughout the season, how at the beginning he was still kind of a, smart mouth loner, although he led a team, he was still kind of like a loner type. But by the end of the season, he leads 2 teams, he's a role model, he's got like really, he understands his power, his great power and his great responsibility. So he understands what comes with it and that he needs to use it for good. So I really like what they did with this character. And found myself, like, he has a few moments in the last episode with Aunt May that I was really surprised at how, like the stuff was happening, and then I was like, wait, I'm really emotionally invested in this. When did this happen? When did me watching this dumb Spider-Man show for 12-year-olds get me really invested in Peter Parker's character and his relationship with Aunt May? I don't know when it happened, but I really like that it did. It just made the show better. The one downside to the show is not necessarily the dialogue overall, but everyone throws one-liners, and they're hardly ever good. They're really cheesy, dorky, kids cartoon one-liners, and they just flood the show every time there's a fight scene, which is like every episode. There's like 3 fight scenes, and they're just filled with Spider-Man whipping quips, and Luke Cage doing it, Iron Fist, Nova. Everyone's got a smart mouth, and everyone's saying something. So, like, I can do without, but that's overall, that's a really small complaint on something that I turned out to really enjoy. Another downside, well, it's not really a downside, is the show is like produced by Brian Michael Bendis, and it's called Ultimate Spider-Man, but it's not really based on the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, which are a personal favorite of mine. So it's not like the fall of the show, it's just kind of like a weird choices overall. Anyways, the other show I started delving into this week was Voltron, which I only started a couple days ago, so I'm only about halfway through. For something I had absolutely no interest in, I've ended up really enjoying it. It's animated well, the characters are really well written. I'm getting invested in the Voltron universe, which was something I didn't know could happen. And I just watched this show because a friend recommended it to me, and I gotta say, I really like it. I'm gonna probably watch the rest of the season today, or tomorrow, after I'm done editing this. Editing. Fucking nailed it, Travell. Okay, and then the last show, yesterday, Monday the 11th, was the premiere of Season 2 for Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Darren Nefsey's show. It's an awesome cartoon, and the premiere was amazing. Told 2 very different, very good stories. One featured Star and Marco, and although I loved it, was definitely playing to the fan and like shipping the 2 main characters together. They're gonna end up together either halfway through the season, maybe earlier, maybe later. I would like them to be together by halfway through the season. Chances are it's not going to be till the finale. Then the other half was like this really spoof on art housey kind of philosophical videos with some like, it was really strange. I really enjoyed it. I really like the show. I'm glad that it's back. But it's kind of one of the things you gotta see to understand, because it's crazy. It's gonna get a little weird. It's gonna get a little wild. She's not from around here. She's from another dimension. Proud of yourself, Travell? Proud. So thanks for watching this week's Tuesday show, and thanks to the 9 people who watched the other show, or the 1 person who watched it 9 times last week. You can watch last week's here. And you can also check out the other Hardly Working Hippie stuff here. We got podcasts that sometimes come out. There's Screenplay Sidekicks and Tunemates. Working on both those, coming out better on better schedules. We also got the Hippies Plays with Jason and Andrew. They're playing Hatful Boyfriend and Slime Rancher right now, I think, but more on the way. So check those out. Check it out.